Hello. Let's talk about the virtual environment in Python. The virtual environment was introduced in Python 3 and is a sandbox for your project to allow you to use a different version of packages and Python itself in each of your projects. So for example, one project could have Python 3.8, while another could have the version Python 3.5. This is very useful for your own project, but it's also very useful if you have different developers working on the same project. This way you can make sure that every one of them has the exact same version of Python and all the packages installed on their system when they work on the project. So how do I make use of it? I have a little project prepared, and first things first is you need to make sure that you have Python 3 installed. You can confirm that by typing in python 3 -- version. So make sure you have that installed. Now, Python usually by default is installed on your system globally, somewhere on your system. So on my computer, if I type in which Python 3, it shows to me this is the path of Python on my computer, on my system. Now, if I want to install it just for this project, I can use the virtual environment, and I can use the command python 3-m venv. That's the keyword to use the virtual environment. And now I can give it any name. This could be really anything like house or Sam, but I'm going to call it venv because this is the name that the Python community or most of the Python community has started using. And it's always good to follow the best practices of the community. So as soon as I hit enter, I see a new project folder is created with the name that I specified here. And that folder contains a bin folder with different scripts. They get useful in a second, and a lib folder. This is where all the packages will be installed, and Python itself. So in order to make use of this now, I need to activate this. And on Windows, the command to activate is this, venv /script /activate.bat. But since we are on Mac, and on Mac it's the same thing as on Linux, you type in source venv bin activate, and that is executing this script in this folder. So if I hit enter, I can see that now there is a little venv keyword in parentheses in my command line. And that means that any command that I type in now is going to be executed within this virtual environment of this folder venv. So if I type in now python -- version, and pay attention, I did not type in Python 3. That's because I installed a virtual environment using Python 3. So now I can just use the Python keyword because it's going to use Python from this folder, which is Python 3.8.2. So this is why I don't need to use the Python 3 anymore, only within that venv environment. I can also see where Python is installed by typing in which Python 3. And you can see this is now the path to the folder that I have installed, or that I am using right now for this video. So this is where I have my Python installed. All right, now that I have this working, I can install packages, and I can install packages using pip. For example, pip install flask. If I want to install the Flask framework, it's going to install it now. And if I open the lib folder now, you can see that there's a whole bunch of new folders that weren't there before, and among them is Flask. And this is because Flask was installed only in this environment, only in this folder, and not anywhere else on the computer. Now I have access to Flask and can use it in my projects. Now let's say, however, I want to deploy this, or I want to upload this to my Git repository. In that case, it's a really good idea to create a gitignore file and ignore the entire venv folder, because this is very big, and the more packages you install, this is going to be a very big folder with information that is not really directly related to your project's code. In that case, it is useful to create a gitignore file. So we can do that by typing in touch.gitignore, or you can just create it through your editor. That's this file now here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the entire venv folder. Just type in venv in this file. Each each line represents basically one rule for ignoring files in your Git environment. Now, if I were to deploy or upload this folder to a Git repository, this would be ignored and the venv folder wouldn't be there. Now you may be asking, okay, well, I just created this so that other developers can use the same stuff. What use is this if I delete the entire venv folder or just ignore it when I deploy it to to Git? And there is one more step you can do to help this, and that is using a requirements.txt file. So what you can do is you can type in pip freeze and then requirements.txt. Now this file name could be anything again, but the common pattern is to use a requirements.txt file. And you can see that a new file was created, and this now includes the exact versions of all the packages that I have installed in my project. So this is what I'm going to submit to Git, but not my venv folder. So now if the other developer clones my project, they're going to download this, and for demonstration purposes, I'm going to deactivate the virtual environment real fast. And let's say the other developer has cloned my project, and that is all they have. They have the gitignore file and the requirements.txt, and they don't have the venv folder. Now, what they can do is they can type in python 3-m venv to initialize the virtual environment again. They can activate it with source venv bin activate. And then finally, they can install all the packages that I have listed in my requirements.txt file by typing in python-m pip install-r requirements.txt. Now, when I go in here and check the lib folder again, I can see that all the packages are installed that were previously installed. And that is how you prepare your project, set up a virtual environment, install packages, and now you're ready to go and use your project or use the structure for any Python project that you're going to start in the future. Have fun with that.